engine for the OBS truck. It's a 6-liter. I'm going to show you kind of taking it apart, going through everything, putting it back together. Are you recording? Craig. Okay. Showing you all the stuff, and we're going to kind of do a video montage, maybe some music, because I have the heater going and everything, and then at the end I'll go over the cam specs, what we did to the cylinder heads, and give you some of the maybe helpful information for when you're doing it. But alright, I'll cut to putting it together. Go ahead, Craig, push the play button. Push the play button. So I had a tough time tracking down a 6-liter, and so we had to get one off the old internet. And this is me after just dropping it off in the garage, pulling the heads and looking at the internals for the first time. As you can see, the piston's got some carbon buildup on them, which is normal, but there weren't any holes in the pistons, so that was a good sign. There was no holes in the block, so that was a good sign. And I just started to wipe the thing down and look it over real good. It has the dish piston, so this is the LQ4, which has a little bit less compression ratio than the LQ9, and I believe this is a Gen 3 based on the knock sensors being in the top of the valley cover for the lifter area, but it had full floating wrist pins in the pistons, and that's more like a Gen 4. So I think this engine was right when they started going from one style, the Gen 3, to the Gen 4, which was good. I took the block, took everything apart, and took it to HED engines and had them go through the block, hone the cylinders, clean it up, and check everything out. Went back with the stock crank pistons and rods. Went with the Cleveite P series main bearings. They're good for a stock replacement, and they also will polish the crank. I did not have the crank turned because there wasn't any signs of any real damage or imperfections, so I just went back with I cleaned it real good and went back with it, and also used Bryan Tooley racing main bolts for the main caps. I had checked all my clearances before this final assembly, and we were right at 2 to 3 thou on the main bearing clearances. So same with the rod bearing clearances. They're right at 2 to 3 thousand, so it's right where I'd want it to be. And then the check the crank in play. This is it here. And it was right in the middle of the factory spec. I think it was like 4 to 8 or something was the factory spec. I'd have to look it back up, but I looked it all up as I was going, and so the thrust bearing was good. Use the Summit ring compressor tool. It's pretty nice. You just get the right size for your piston bore, and as you tap it down through the sleeve, it's tapered so it compresses it, falls right in. And then use the ARP rod bolts. And when you do the ARP rod bolts, it tells you, but you're supposed to torque it, loosen it, torque it, loosen it 3 times, and then you're good to go. For camshaft, I contacted PCM Of NC, told them what we were doing with it, and they spec'd me out a cam. And I think this is one of the few times I actually put a new camshaft with new cam bearings. Usually it's just buy a hot camshaft and slam it in some old bearings, so this will be nice once we get to fire it up.
And remember when installing the new cam not to damage the new bearings. So just take your time and make sure not to nick the bearings. And with the brand new timing chain, and make sure you line up your marks so that the cam's in time with the crankshaft. And that oil galley plug is very important. You won't have oil pressure if that plug's not in. And we went with a new oil pump. It's a performance pump. Should give us a little bit more flow, which will make more oil pressure. Went with brand new lifters and lifter trays to make sure they don't spin in the trays, which I'm sure it could happen, but you know, I've never seen it. And just like as we're going, just torquing everything and double checking. Make sure you don't leave a paper towel in there or something stupid. Blow up your new engine. I also pre-soaked the lifters. I put them in a Tupperware I stole from the kitchen and filled it with oil and just let them soak in there for a day or two. These are the cylinder heads. They're a 317 cast. Bryan Tooley Racing valve springs with titanium retainers, and we had the heads cut down 60 thou off, so to get our compression back because of those dome pistons. Went with a hardened push rod to make sure that extra valve spring doesn't give us push rod deflection. I had these rockers left over from an old project, so I just decided to go ahead and use it on this engine. They're brand new, so they should be fine. And what I was doing here was checking the piston to valve clearance. I put some of the kit Play-Doh on top of the piston, put the head on, snugged it down. Then I put the rockers and the push rods in, spin it over and see what kind of mess you got on top of your piston. And then once you have that, you can take your razor blade, cut it in half, and then take your dial calipers and measure how thick the gap is between the piston edge, or the valve edge, and the top of the piston. We had plenty of clearance still, so that's good, but cutting the heads down definitely will help with the compression and get us the power we need. And I'm mainly doing this because we did cut the heads down so much. If we left the heads alone, I wouldn't be worried about this at all, especially with the dish piston. But seeing as how we cut the heads down, I just wanted to make sure. And here we have the heads on, they're torqued down. Used Bryan Tooley Racing bolts again, head bolts. And I just added a little oil to the top just so when I'm turning it over, there's a little bit of oil in the top end, it's not all dry. So the knock sensors right here on top, you can see the two of them there. You want to make sure you use a good name brand knock sensor. Don't use the cheapest Rock Auto one. I like Rock Auto for some things, but not for knock sensors. You'll have issues all day long with them pulling timing. So get a good knock sensor. That harness on top, it's like a $50 harness, so next time you're taking one out, don't just cut it off.
So now that you're all caught up to speed on where we're at with the engine, we went with a comp cam. I contacted PCM of NC here in Mooresville, North Carolina, and told them what we're doing with the truck and what kind of power and drivability and everything we were doing, transmission. And they spec'd me out a cam through comp cams. It's a, I'll put the cam part number at the bottom in case you want to order one, but it's their Attitude V3, and it is a 225 duration on the intake and a 235 on the exhaust with a 113 lobe separation. And for valve lift, the intake is 612 thousandths on the intake and 620 on the exhaust. It's going to give it a nice wide power band. You know, I told them I didn't want to spin it a ton RPM, so hopefully, you know, we have the power right where we want it. You know, somewhere from like 3,000 to 6 would be good. And then the lift, man, that much lift, it's going to flow plenty of air. We have a sheet metal intake for it and long tube headers. On the cylinder heads, I took them to their stock 317 casting truck head of 6 liter, and I took them to HED, Harold Engine and Dyno in Mooresville, and they went through the heads, checked all the valve guides, put the new valve springs on, cleaned up, did a little valve job on them, cleaned those all up, cleaned up all the runners a little bit, and they got a real nice package there, real budget friendly. They do great work. And I had them cut the heads down. We went down 60 thousandths on the head to get the compression up, because with these pistons they're dished, so you're kind of down on compression compared to the flat top piston. So we should be back up on compression, which every engine likes compression, except air cooled stuff's kind of, you know, they get hot. And then what I went with front drive is I ordered a Holley accessory bracket, and I was going to do like car, like the F-body, like a 2000 Camaro, water pump and everything, but the guy on Facebook Marketplace had this stuff, real low mileage. It was a takeoff, and it's off of 2017, cleaned it all up, painted it, all new gaskets, and I think it'll work really well. Even got the AC compressor with it. I have the power steering pump. I just have to move the idler pulley over on the bracket. I'll show you in the next video, so that the throttle body will clear the serpentine belt and not have any clearance issues. So yeah, we got LS9 head gaskets, LS7 lifters, hardened push rods. And this thing's should run really well. I'm excited. Good oil pump, brand new timing chain. All, you know, everything's right on. The piston rings, had to file those just a little bit. They're a little tight on the compression ring, but the bearings looked measured out real nice. About 2 to 3 thousandths on the crank and rod bearings, right where you'd want to see it. So we'll probably run like a 5-weight oil, just to make sure, you know, because they are a little tight. But I'm excited. Knock sensors, all new oil plugs and everything. Like, it should be a nice build. So, anyways, we're gonna keep moving forward. Hopefully, the next video, it'll be us setting this in the truck. And we already have a Holley Terminator X system, so we can start running all the wires and working on fuel lines and heater hoses, power steering, all that stuff. We're going to cover all that. So stay up with us. I'm slow getting videos out because I'm, you know, full-time dad and full-time job, but this is really fun. So hope you enjoy it. All right. And I'm going to give Craig a rundown on this camera because I had to make him go sit in the corner. He keeps shaking it. I got it on the tripod now, so hopefully, if not, maybe if you're any good at the camera and you want to try it, you know, put it in the comments. Maybe I'll let you hold the camera, but he's in timeout right now. So, all right, I'll talk to you later.